What's going on, chicken friends? It's Donna Little from the Coop Scoop, and the question of the hour is to free range or to not free range. And if you watch my channel, you know my ladies free range every single day, but that's not always possible. So trust me when I say you're not going to get any judgment from me, but I do want to talk about the pros and the cons, and I know I'm probably going to forget a lot of things, and if you can think of things that I didn't mention, then put it in the comments so that, you know, the more education we can put out there about things like this, the better. You know, there's definitely going to be things that I'm not going to think about. So I'm going to start with the cons. And I'm going to start with the cons because I want to end this video on a good note. And the pros sound better than the cons, right? Now, there's the big, obvious con, and that is going to be predators. You have to keep in mind too, you know, especially if you're new to chicken keeping and you're making that decision, you know, do I want to let mine out? It seems so much better to have them out, you know, roaming around. I've got this big, beautiful yard behind me, and it would seem a shame to not allow that, but you have to think about your circumstances. And predators, no matter where you live, are going to be part of the equation. But you have to remember that it's not only going to be wildlife that can be predators. If I didn't have a privacy fence, I don't know how safe I would feel myself. And I have always free-ranged my chickens, and I've had chickens for years. If my neighborhood dogs could see what I have in this yard. I have a very large dog back here. I've got a very large dog over there that you know, backs up to my fence. It would make me nervous, I'm not going to lie. They probably would make it their life's mission to get into my fence, and it probably wouldn't take very much, and they would be in here, and then, you know what would happen after that. So you're going to have to think about that. It's not just wildlife, it's neighborhood dogs. If you don't have a fence and you're close to the street, your chickens could fall prey to being run over by a car. Your chickens can get stolen, you know, if you're in a neighborhood and you don't have a fence. So these are things that you have to take into consideration as far as things that can happen to end your chickens' lives. So think about the predators that are in your area and the risks that come with that, as well as just, you know, domestic predators, I would say, like cars and, you know, dogs and that sort of thing. Another con, and this is not really so much a problem for me, but it is a con for some, is chickens can really take a toll on your yard. So if having a beautiful, pristine lawn is a priority for you, chickens free ranging might be something that you need to really think about, because I have right now 18 chickens, and my backyard is probably about an acre. There are probably I would say at least 6 large areas where they have made their own dust bath. And when they decide to do that, they're going to start digging up the grass right there, and it's going to become a nice little, you know, shallow, well, there's one up by my house that is not a shallow grave. I think that they're planning to kill me. I'm not sure. But it's pretty deep. It's significant. But most of them are just sort of nice little shallow, you know, hole in the ground, and they get in there and they do their dust bath, and they can really do a number on a yard. So if you have this beautiful lawn and you think it's going to stay that way and you're going to get a flock of chickens, it is not going to stay that way. If you have a garden and they have access to that, they are going to be in your garden, and they're going to be in there. You know, they might help you weed a little bit, but they're also going to help themselves to whatever lovely vegetables you are growing. I have fig trees out here in the backyard, and every fig that is in, you know, their jumping range is fair game for them. So that is definitely something that you need to think about. Also, I kind of already touched on it, but even if you have a fence, they can sometimes, and it's going to depend on how tall your fence is, obviously, and how lightweight your chickens are and how motivated they are to expand their territory, they can fly over a fence. So they can jump up onto the top and hop on over. So they can get lost, they can get stolen, and obviously then fall prey to other predators out there. So you definitely need to know that they're going to stay within their range. I would not free range my chickens if I didn't have a fenced yard. Now, my girls are all bigger, most of them are bigger breeds. So they're heavy bodied. Most of them have never even attempted to go over the fence. But usually when they're young and they're still really lightweight and they're, you know, testing things out and they don't really know what's expected of them, not that you can definitely train chickens to do things, but I have some 10-week-old pullets, and just this week they have decided that they're going to test out the fence. And the area that I allow them so far to go out into, they're not allowed into the big yard yet. They're hopping up onto the 4-foot fence. And that's about the only place that I have a 4-foot fence. Everything else is much taller. The fence behind me is 8 feet. So they're testing out the boundaries, and I have to just be with them constantly. You know, of course I'm going to be with them anyway because we do have aerial predators, but even with a fenced-in yard, I guess what I'm saying is they can still get out. So you have to take that into consideration. There are some that are bound and determined, and even if you clip their wings, they're still going to be able to fly up onto the top of the fence and, you know, take themselves on out of your yard. Now, another thing that, even though I free range, I kind of laid the groundwork for them to know where to lay their eggs. But, I think I just put out a video about that, and if I can remember, I'll link it in the comments, how to show them where to lay their eggs and set the groundwork for that. You can be on an Easter egg hunt every day, especially if you live out in the country and you don't have a fence, and that's not really an issue because you're, you know, have a large piece of property. You might find yourself, you know, looking for those eggs. If you have a rooster or two, you might find yourself having a whole lot more chickens than you planned on because they're going to be, you know, off hiding around somewhere under your barn or wherever, and they're going to be bringing you a whole little new flock. So, you know, that's something that is also could definitely be a con. Fortunately, I have not had to deal with that yet. But, you know, as far as, you know, cons go, those are probably the main ones, and the biggest, of course, of all is going to be predators. So just assess the dangers that are in your area and really think about it. Is it worth it to me to, you know, let my chickens out every single day? Now, the pros to me, obviously I free range mine, far outweigh the cons. And one that, you know, isn't really that big a deal to me because I don't have tons of chickens, but it definitely helps, is you're going to be feeding your chickens less because they're going to be feeding themselves every single day. Now, of course, during the winter when there are fewer bugs to be had, I live in the South, so we don't have a lot of winter, but they're going to be out here foraging all day, every day. Mine do not really eat a lot of feed because they're out here in the yard doing their things, and because of that, they are giving themselves a varied diet. They're eating, I don't even know how many different kinds of bugs, grubs, worms. They're eating grass, they're eating clover, they're helping themselves to dandelions and flowers, and they are definitely creating healthier, more nutrient-dense eggs because they are feeding themselves the things that they know their body needs. Now, you can replicate that even if you don't free range. If you want, you can look into getting what's called a chicken tractor, and it's something that, you know, you can put them in and it's contained, and you can move it to different areas throughout your yard. If you want to go that route, you can buy them bugs and grubs and that sort of thing, and, you know, provide that for them if they're contained. So they don't have to miss out on that sort of thing, but that is definitely a bonus for me, is that I know that my eggs are even healthier because they are out here. And speaking of healthier, free ranging, I can assure you, is going to make a happy chicken, and a happier chicken is a healthier chicken. They are definitely going to have a better immune system. I think a lot of times people don't think about the fact that when they're contained all day, 24 hours a day, every time they scratch the ground, their creating this dust. And if they're in an area that isn't cleaned regularly, then, they're going to be putting all that up into their lungs. They're definitely more prone to upper respiratory issues if they can't get outside at all. I do know some people that keep their hens in the coop all the time because they don't have a secure run. That, in my opinion, is not a good idea. You definitely at least need to provide them some sort of outdoor space that they can go into. So just keep that in mind. They're going to be breathing all of that in. If you have shavings on the ground, that sort of thing, it just creates an unhealthy environment. They're definitely less likely, in my opinion, to get parasites, to have, external parasites, mites, and that sort of thing, if they can go out and they have a little bit of space to get away from each other. And that leads me to this. There's going to be a whole lot less drama. Hens, especially, they can be really, really brutal with each other. And we aren't allowed to have roosters where I live. I am in the city limits, so I don't have a rooster that's there sort of being the, boss and, stopping any squabbles that happen. So when my girls can free range, if they have little buddies that they like to hang out with all day, they can do that all day long. If they have hens that they, don't really get along with that well, they can be as far away from them as they possibly can be and want to be, and, that's going to make for a peaceful yard. I can tell you this. First thing in the morning, I let them out. And other than the egg song, it is just peace and quiet all day long. I've never had to deal with feather picking on any great level. I will say this, when they go to roost at night, I really can't imagine not being able to free range mine because they get very picky with each other on the roost bar. And I have one of my Jersey Giant, and she has had some feathers picked out of her head, but it's not, feather picking is sort of a different level, and so I've never had to deal with that. Out here in the yard, if one of them is, say, I've got fig trees, if one of them's under the fig tree and they found a fig, and somebody that is not their buddy, comes up and tries to get in on the action, they will peck at them and make them go away. But that's about as far as it goes. So they're definitely happy, and they're never, ever bored. There are so many places in my yard, whatever they're in the mood to do, they can just do it. If they feel like just laying down under a big, thick bush and chilling out and, starting up, dust bath number 850 in the yard, they can go for it. They can do that. If they want to mill around out here behind me, they all left me when I started this. They were all like right over here around me, and now they're up by the house. But they can do that also. So there's so much mental stimulation that comes with being able to free range and walk around here. I mean, it's hilarious. I know you've probably seen them chase a moth or a cicada. And, that's just something that's like a game to them. If they see a cricket, just that sort of thing. And, it just makes them so much happier. You're also, and this is a huge bonus for me because I am busy all the time, is your coop is just going to stay cleaner. Now, I have videos out there. I've got a lot of playlists, but I have a whole playlist just about my coop and the changes that we've made in there to make it way easier to keep clean. Even if they were in there all day, it would still probably be easier, but most of the pooping that my chickens do is just at night, and I have poop boards, and I can go in there. They've got sand on them. I can just scoop it like you would a litter box. So my coop stays so much cleaner. I would say I might go in and find 5 or 6 poops on the ground. So I definitely have to buy much less shavings. I don't have to spend the money on that. Whatever it is your ground cover might be, you're going to be spending much less money on that, and that's always a good thing. And I think that just the overall happiness of my hens every single day makes it worth it for me. I'm under no illusion that there aren't risks. I'm under no illusion just because I haven't lost any of these girls to a predator attack that it won't happen. I know that there's always the risk of that, but for me and my situation and weighing the pros and cons, this is a better life for my girls. If you are unable to do this, I have a few videos about boredom busting and, you know, things that you can do for them to give them sort of that enrichment in their run. Because listen, like I said, no judgment. If I had different circumstances, if I didn't have a fenced in yard, if I didn't have a privacy fence, I would not free range mine. I would probably have less chickens, but that way they would probably get along a little bit better in, you know, a confined area. But that's about all I can think of off the top of my head. I hope that these pros and cons have given you guys something to think about. If you have never had chickens before and you're thinking about getting them and you're making that decision right now, or you've had them for a while and you really want to take that plunge. Something else too that I see people talk about is how do you get them back in the coop at night? And I think that probably you need to lay that groundwork to begin with. You know, if you've just gotten them, keep them contained for a little while to where that's their home base and they have gotten used to, here's where my roost is, this is where I go to bed at night. And that's, you know, it's pretty simple. And then maybe, you know, just start letting them out in the evening right before they go to bed. I did that with the very first chickens we ever had. I was very, you know, afraid to let them free range because my yard seemed, at the time we didn't have our backyard fenced in, so my entire property is fenced and it's about 3 acres. And I was really worried about letting them out. And so we kept them contained for a little bit. And then as I started to let them out, I only did it maybe an hour before they would go back to roost. So that, and then, you know, I found that they stayed really close to the coop then. And as they, you know, I started watching them, you know, just take themselves back in naturally to go to bed, I started to feel more comfortable, and then I started letting them free range on the whole property. But I wish you guys all the best in whatever decision you make, because I know it's going to be the best thing for your flock and your situation. I hope you guys are also enjoying our content, and if you are, please hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so you don't miss any upcoming videos, because we always have things going on here. Have a fantastic day, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.